Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Luis Fernandez. Don't look now, but the college football season is fast approaching. In a world of revenue sharing, conference realignment, NIL, there are plenty of storylines to go around. On Tuesday, the ACC Kickoff begins in Charlotte. It's the league's annual football preview event. We'll hear from Commissioner Jim Phillips and representatives from Duke, UNC, and NC State. But with all that in mind, let's hear from WRAL Sports investigative reporter Brian Murphy, who joins us now. Thanks for being here, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I want to start with the House settlement. This landmark legal decision happening earlier this summer has opened the gates to revenue sharing between colleges and the players. How does that impact what we see this year and beyond?
Yeah, well, it's going to have a huge impact. I mean, I think one thing that people may not be familiar with is schools rush to put deals in place before the House guidelines. So the House settlement says that you can share up to $20.5 million with your athletes. A lot of that is going to football. Upwards of 75 to 80% at some schools is going to football. But with that in mind, schools knew that was coming. So their collectives worked ahead of time to preload these deals, to have these deals go into effect before the House settlement. So you're seeing football rosters probably worth $50 to $60 million at the top end because of all this preloaded money, then the revenue sharing on top of it. Right now, there's a huge debate about whether the collectives will continue to be able to operate as they have since 2021, or if all that's going to get shut down and we'll see revenue sharing and then sort of true NIL, but none of this, pay-for-play thing that we've seen out of the collective.
It's wild just to hear you say, yeah, these rosters are going to be front-loaded, 50 to 60 million. It's the world of college athletics, of college football has changed so much.
Yeah, and we're seeing it in every sport, right? We saw in the Women's College World Series, softball, a player making over $1 million a year. Both Duke and North Carolina have transfer quarterbacks who are being paid multi-million-dollar deals for multiple years. That is the world of college athletics, and I don't think it's going to change.
So we bring up the money conversation. We know money is pretty important, and beginning this season, everyone in the ACC, all of the programs, they're not going to get the same amount of money. What does that revenue distribution now look like, and why the change?
Yeah, I've taken to calling this the eat what you kill era in the ACC. It used to be, say the ACC got $100 million, it split that $100 million equally to every member of the ACC. Well, now, last year they put in the Success Initiative. So if you made it to the college football playoff, as Clemson and SMU did, if you made it deep in the NCAA tournament like Duke, you could make more money because the conference is being paid more money. So that they have that. Now, as part of the settlement with Clemson and Florida State, to make those legal cases go away, remember that has been in the news for a couple of years now. Well, that's done. The ACC settled, and part of that settlement not only cleaned up the grant of rights and what it takes to get out of the league, but it also created this revenue distribution formula that is 40%. Now they take, as I mentioned, $100 million. So say they take out of that $100 million, 40% of that $40 million gets split evenly. The other 60%, so $60 million in this example, gets divided proportionally based on how much you contribute to the ACC's total viewership. So if Florida State contributes half of all the viewership, then according to this formula, they'll receive roughly half of all of that 60%. Now, it's not quite as clean and simple as that. 75% is based on football, 25% on basketball. So a school like Duke has a real good chance to make some money, but this is part of that settlement, part of getting Clemson and Florida State to drop those demands that they had. And what it could do is, especially for Clemson and Florida State and maybe a Miami, maybe North Carolina with Bill Belichick, those schools may end up making more than like their counterpart in the SEC, or at least closing that gap. And remember, that's been a big bone of contention from Clemson and Florida State, is that we're not being paid what we're worth, and see the last school in the SEC or the last school in the Big Ten is making $10, $15, $20 million more than we are. Under these new formulas, the top teams, the top earners in the ACC could be even with some of those schools.
The difference is just in the past couple of years, the way all of this, whether you're talking about the way schools are making more or less money, we talked about the players and all of this stuff. From a big picture perspective, Brian, is it fair to say that this might be the most uncertainty college football nationwide has ever had to deal with going into a new season?
I think so. I mean, we're still getting used to these new conferences. I mean, the Pac-12 basically no longer exists, and that was last year. We've got the 12-team playoff, but that might be changing. I mean, pretty much every element of the sport is changing. I think at the end of the day, though, you go back to the schools that have been great at football for a very long time, Ohio State, Clemson, the top teams in the SEC. We're probably going to see those teams once again battling it out for the championship. So as much as things have changed, in the end, when we get to December and January and the college football playoff, I think we'll be like, well, this is pretty similar to what we've seen in the past.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're honing in on the storylines for NC State, UNC, and Duke next. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with WRAL Sports Investigative reporter Brian Murphy as the ACC Kickoff begins in Charlotte. All right, Brian, we talked big picture. Now let's come back here to North Carolina. 6-time Super Bowl champion winning head coach Bill Belichick is now the head coach of North Carolina Tar Heels. Surprise, don't know if you've heard that yet or not. He's brought a lot of attention nationally, primarily with his relationship with his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. Now, do we finally turn to the actual game on the field? He has all of this pro experience, but this is the first time he's been a college head coach.
Yeah, I think is the most fascinating story, on the field. We talked a lot about all the stuff off the field, but on the field, this is the most fascinating story in the ACC. This team, North Carolina, hired Bill Belichick to make a splash. They want to be better at football. The Mac Brown era sort of ended with some embarrassing losses, some inexplicable losses at times, but he had a lot of talent. There was a lot of talent that ran through those UNC rosters, and a lot of that talent is gone. Guys like Omarion Hampton, Jahvaree Ritzie. I mean, basically all their best players are gone. And while Bill Belichick's done a great job, in the recruiting class for next year, and he did a lot of work in the transfer portal, it's kind of like up in the air as to how good the talent on this team is going to be. Now, there's two things. The schedule is easy. They play Clemson, but other than Clemson, they play basically all the teams picked to finish in the bottom half of the ACC. So there is an opportunity there for North Carolina, even if they're not great, to maybe pile up a lot of wins. And then second, Mac Brown is a great coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach. But can Belichick get them to stop beating themselves? I think any North Carolina fan would say UNC really beat themselves in the Mac Brown era a lot of times. Defensive mistakes, even some offensive mistakes, just a lot of miscues. If there's one thing Belichick should be able to do, it should be able to coach a team that doesn't beat itself, doesn't make a ton of mistakes. That's what I'm looking forward to, but they have a quarterback battle. I mean, it looks like Gio Lopez, a transfer from South Alabama, will get the job, but there's questions about talent, and then I think there's questions about how does he translate to the college game.
And you want to talk about putting a spotlight on the program, right? They start their season on a Monday night football game against TCU. A lot of attention, both nationally and locally, on UNC, that's for sure. Almost overshadowed a little bit is NC State with all the attention that's been given to UNC and Bill Belichick. The Wolfpack have had a lot of change at offensive and defensive coordinators specifically. You have C.J. Bailey returning at quarterback. So what are the expectations for NC State?
What's really funny is last year at this time, we were talking first year of the 12-team playoff. NC State is a wild card. They're a team that could be in that playoff. They could be hosting a home playoff game at Carter Finley Stadium. It didn't work out that way. Grayson McCall injury obviously put a big damper on their season, but more importantly, they just got blown out by the best teams that they played. Uncompetitive game against Tennessee kind of set the tone for the whole season. And then they ended their season, they beat Carolina, which they seem to beat Carolina all the time now under Dave Doran, to get to a bowl game, and then they lose in ugly fashion to East Carolina. Not so much the way they lost that game, but the way the game ended with a huge fight in the Military Bowl. So their game against UNC ended kind of with a fight on the field. Their game against East Carolina kind of ended with a fight on the field. So, Dave Doran has told me this team has a lot to prove this year. And when you look at their schedule, they open with East Carolina. I mean, expectations on that game really setting the tone for the season one way or the other. The first half of their schedule is pretty manageable, but they close with Notre Dame, at Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, at Miami, Florida State, and then again UNC. So even if this team starts out maybe 5-0, 5-1, they've got a really tough back end of the schedule. Maybe that's what they need. They have a new offensive coordinator, new defense coordinator, as you talked about. Maybe they need a little bit of time to put this thing together. C.J. Bailey's back. They have very good skill position players, kind of the opposite of Carolina. You've heard of these guys. Noah Rogers, Justin Jolie, Hollywood Smothers in the backfield. They've got some talent back. You always figure NC State's defense is going to be pretty good. So this is a team I think could surprise, right? When you expect the least out of NC State, sometimes you get the most.
Okay, we've done Chapel Hill. We've done Raleigh. Let's go to Durham. Duke football. This is year 2 under head coach Manny Diaz. They had 9 wins in his first season, just completely outperforming any kind of expectation. They paid big money for Tulane transfer quarterback Darian Mensah. Is this Duke football program hitting its stride?
Yeah, I mean, kind of under the radar, right? Mike Elko had done a really nice job, and you thought when he left, well, maybe they can't sustain it. But Manny Diaz did a great job in year 1. They had Malik Murphy, who they went 9-4. You would think the quarterback would stick around, but no. They felt like they could upgrade with Darian Mensah from Tulane. Murphy, I think, is at Oregon State now, so felt like this was an upgrade, and this is what the program needs. Duke just continues to amaze. I mean, they keep finding ways to win. You look at their schedule, they play Clemson. But other than that, the schedule is somewhat soft. Like I don't want to say soft, but they're all winnable games. And Duke has found a way over the last, 2 years in particular to win these games. They've been very good at home, which is amazing because they don't necessarily have the best home field advantage, but they've turned that into a place where they win a lot of games. And I think Elko gets credit for that. Manny Diaz gets credit for that. And the support system that Duke has built around them, be it strength and conditioning, be it the athletic department, I think deserves a lot of credit. I mean, winning, I think 17 games over the last 2 years is impressive and something that both fans in Raleigh and Chapel Hill would be happy to do.
I think when we talk about all 3 of these teams, it just going into this season, it's almost just big question marks. It's like, what are you going to see? And I think we're all going to find out very quickly once the season gets started.
And I will be at the ACC Kickoff Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And find my work at WRAL.com and all over the place. But I think the whole league is like that. I mean, Clemson is going to be really, really good. Like back to Clemson of old, national championship contender good. Other than that, I mean, you look at there's kind of a next tier with SMU, Miami, and Louisville, who are all expected to be good. But, I wouldn't bet on them. And then after that, the rest of the league is just like, okay, who's going to rise up? Is a team like Georgia Tech going to have another good year? Can Belichick put it together? Can NC State put it together? Will Syracuse do something? Like, there's a lot of teams that you look at and you're like, one of these teams is going to do something. I just can't tell you which one.
So with you, bringing up that you're going to be there this week, what is the one thing that you want to learn, that you want to take away from this ACC kickoff?
Yeah, I think there's let me give you 2 answers. One on the commissioner side. Like, I'm really interested to see what Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, says about, we know what he's going to say about the ACC's place, right? They're the 3rd in revenue, 3rd in distribution. But, they're trying to figure out the new format for the college football playoff. The ACC has sort of adopted this 5+11 model. They don't want other leagues getting more AQs than they get, automatic qualifiers. And so I'm just interested how he kind of finesses that conversation. And then when you get to the teams, I mean, have been and remain fascinated by this Bill Belichick thing. A 73-year-old coach who's never coached in college is coming to a place that has not really been able to put it together in football the way they would like. And now they've put all their eggs in this basket. They're paying him $50 million. They are, have upped his staff. They've upped their NIL budget. They are trying to sell sponsorships off this. I mean, they have built now their athletic department funding in a lot of ways around football success. Can Belichick do it? Can he turn this perennial, 6-7, 7-6 team into something that fans want to see, that television executives want to see, and that can make it to an ACC title game? Now, they've had success in the past. Unlike, NC State hasn't been able to get to a title game. Part of that was their division. Carolina has made it to the title game, but they haven't been able to win it, haven't been able to get past Clemson, and you wonder if Belichick can figure out a way to do that.
Well, whatever ends up happening with UNC in particular, whether it's a huge success or a colossal failure, there are going to be a lot of eyes on Chapel Hill, on Kenan Stadium this season. That's for sure. We will see you in Charlotte. Thank you so much, Brian Murphy.
Thank you.
That's WRAL Sports investigative reporter Brian Murphy for coverage from ACC Kickoff in Charlotte all this week. Check out WRAL.com and WRALSportsFan.com. I'm Luis Fernandez. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.